On behalf of California State Parks and myself, my name is Donnelle. I would like to welcome you to Hearst San Simeon State Historical Monument. Due to unfortunate circumstances affecting the entire world around us, we are unable to open our doors to the public to enjoy La Cuesta Encantada, the Enchanted Hill, as Mr. Hearst would affectionately refer to it. However, in lieu of that, we've comprised a program that will allow folks to safely stay in their homes and enjoy the Enchanted Hill through social media and safe distancing measures being practiced. Please stay tuned for updates we will be providing from parks.ca.gov. We encourage you folks to visit local parks in your own area. They will be closed as far as the parking lots and transportation are concerned to get there. However, you're welcome to enjoy many of the local parks California has to offer, and we encourage you to practice those 6-foot safe distancing measures. Early discussions to build on this hilltop began between William Randolph Hearst and his architect, Julia Morgan, in 1919. Her draftsman, Walter Stylberg, will recall overhearing Mr. Hearst tell Julia Morgan, "I'd like to build a little something on that hilltop where I once camped as a child. I'm getting a little too old to camp in tents." He's 56 years old at the time of this discussion. He'll ask his mother for a bit of his inheritance on the early side and hopes to begin construction. She'll decline graciously and she'll tell Julia Morgan, "I'm afraid Willie might get carried away." It looks like she might have known a little something about her son. Sadly, she does pass away that same year from the Spanish influenza. William will wait a respectable 3 weeks and realize he now has his inheritance to spend without restriction. So what was originally to be a little something, with the cottages sited so carefully into the hillside, will very rapidly turn into something quite grand, with Casa Grande, the big house. Now, typically, when we have our public tours, as we approach the main terrace of Casa Grande, I'll ask my guests if this reminds them at all of a house. The answer I most frequently receive is that it reminds folks more of a church or a cathedral. Some will say a palace or a castle. As we take a look, all of those would be correct answers. You see, Mr. Hearst is designing this after a Mediterranean village. The focal point of a Mediterranean village is typically the church. We might notice a lot of church-like elements on the facade of Casa Grande. It causes many of my guests to then ask me the question about Mr. Hearst's religious beliefs. When he's asked that question, he'll reply, "I'm a Christian of no particular denomination." He's married and buried Episcopalian. His nanny has him baptized Catholic, unbeknownst to his mother, who was not Catholic. The more logical explanation for the prevalence of the religious artwork that we experience on all of our tours will lend itself to both the time period and the region he's most heavily collecting. It is predominantly 15th to 17th century Spanish and Italian. That time period, those regions, artwork almost in its entirety is financed by and for the Catholic Church. Many examples of that will be seen throughout all of our tours. Even as we look at the facade of Casa Grande, we might notice that 16th century Spanish Renaissance grille door. The outside edges of that grille door, as well as the fan-like portion above, are modern extension work, painted and gilded. They're done by Ed Trinkeller, the primary ironworker on the hilltop. And they're making it look an awful lot like the gates of Alcazar, a fortified palace in Sevilla. Flanking the sides of that grille door are two 15th century wildmen. They're carved of limestone. Wildmen are medieval, mythological figures. They're typically placed at the entrances of churches. Sometimes they flank the sides of coats of arms. They're covered in fur, representing all that is wild, and quite frequently they'll hold a club or in this instance, a sword and a shield. Those are elements of that protection for the areas they stand. If we look just a bit north of that grille door, we're going to notice an equestrian statute of the Duke of Burgundy. Mr. Hearst did purchase the original 15th century version of this replica. Although he's collecting predominantly 15th to 17th century, as you can already see, there are some things that'll be a little bit newer and some that'll be older than the time periods we mentioned. He still holds that 15th century original version in the vault in our basement below. It was refurbished, but it is in very poor condition. This replica is so that you folks and folks all over the world can still enjoy it. If we look just north of that, you're going to see the oldest relic on the facade of Casa Grande, the Madonna and Child. She's carved of sandstone, unlike the others. She's holding a scepter in her hand, a crown on her head, and the Christ child in her other hand. This scepter and crown represent her being the Queen of the Heavens. Julia Morgan, Mr. Hearst architect, also said that Mr. Hearst suffered from a little something that she liked to call changeableness of mind. She goes on to say he compensates for it by allowing me to change mine every now and then as well. Throughout their 28-year collaboration of building on this hilltop, this being Project 503 out of over 700 projects for an incredibly busy architect, there will be plenty of opportunities for both of them to experience changeableness of mind. 68,500 square feet of it just here in Casa Grande, 37 feet in height, another 9 feet for the Venetian weather vanes atop it. 168,000 square feet with 42 bathrooms, 38 bedrooms, and 14 sitting rooms. Now, some of that changeableness of mind will take place very early on. Originally, Casa Grande was only going to be 2 floors. 1 short year later, they both agreed to change their mind, taking greater advantage of these views on the hilltop. And planning stages to build a 3rd floor will begin. That 3rd floor is represented by that teak cornice, carved by Jules Suppot, a Switzerland man living in San Francisco. However, that teak wood coming from Thailand. There are some zoomorphic figures in it. They might represent the fact that Mr. Hearst did have the largest private zoo in our country. There's a triple balcony just beneath it. That represents a shared sitting room between Mr. Hearst, whose bedroom is represented by the balcony in the tower over to our right, and Marion Davies, his longtime companion of 30 years, whose balcony is in the other tower, representing her bedroom. Even the towers are based on the towers of a church in Ronda, Spain. But there's changeableness of mind going on there as well. Because you see, originally, Mr. Hearst wasn't going to have those chimes. And believe it or not, his reasoning is he thought they were too church-like. The following year, he did change his mind. They'll install those 36 carillon bells, 18 in each tower. They do go off right around 12 noon, as you were able to experience just as part of this feed. They go off to some fun little tune that's programmed into a piano situated between our billiard room and our theater. When the park is once again safely open to the public, we hope you'll visit. If you're on a Grand Rooms tour, you'll experience walking by that piano. If we continue to look just a little bit north of those towers, however, you're going to notice that there are Venetian weather vanes, antique Venetian weather vanes. He purchases those in 1907 out of a sale of Stanford White's belongings. Stanford White is a very famous New York architect and interior designer. And upon his death, there'll be a huge sale of his belongings and collectibles. It's also a huge social event for very wealthy art collectors and art dealers. In that arena, Mr. Hearst will not be an exception. Neither will Mr. Rockefeller. It is said that out of that sale of those belongings, Mr. Rockefeller walked away with most of the Spanish oil bottles, while Mr. Hearst walked away with most of the stained glass and the Venetian weather vanes. 2 of them sport the top of these towers here at Casa Grande. Folks, we do hope that you'll continue stay tuned to updates. Once again, it's going to be at parks.ca.gov. I thank you for sharing this time with me. Stay safe, be well, and come visit us when